Hi, I'm here with my colleagues Ed and Jenny to discuss the Dear CEO letter that was issued by the Central Bank of Ireland to payment and eMoney firms last week. So, whilst there's nothing wholly surprising about the topics they've raised, I do feel there's a kind of a clear message coming from the Central Bank, and it's a soft warning to firms of, we've had 12 months of intense supervision in kind of an industry they weren't actually expecting to spend such a level of intensity and time on. And coming out of that, they said, well, actually, we have a lot of findings. There's a lot, and what the words they used was significant findings in areas of risk management and governance. And I think there's a couple of really interesting points in the letter. Jenny, what's your take on it?
Well, my initial reaction was that it was actually quite commonsensical, and one of informed guidance is how I thought about it. Whether it's looking at addressing outsourcing from an operational resilience context or articulating that ultimate responsibility for areas such as distribution channels in AML and CFT resides with the firms themselves. It's all quite pragmatic and sets out that risks need to be addressed and mitigated across the business, although it does focus on a couple of specific areas. But one would assume that that's what firms would be doing in any case when addressing their business risks already. The main takeaway for me is that the regulatory buck stops with the firm itself. Mm-hmm. And I think also due to the evolving nature of payment firms and EMIs, and sometimes they have complex cross-jurisdictional structures, and it's a relatively new area to be regulated. My sense is that these firms will be under a lot of regulatory scrutiny for the foreseeable future. Ed, I don't know, would you agree with that?
Thanks, Jenny. I completely agree. I agree with all of that. So I think what we're seeing here is the outcome of a significant increase in the level of supervisory scrutiny that these firms are under over the last couple of years. As the sector has grown both in size and in number of firms. I think it's a very helpful letter to see, kind of have clarity in terms of what the central bank is expecting. It's clearly that they're very focused on safeguarding of customers' funds, on how firms are being run from a risk management and governance perspective. And also they're expecting firms to be resilient, both from a financial and an operational resilience perspective. What's also clear in the letter, and you touched on this earlier, is that they're not satisfied. The central bank is not satisfied that their expectations are being sufficiently met across the industry. So there is a call to arms there for firms to proactively be considering what the central bank is expecting in all these areas. And indeed, it's better for firms to be thinking proactively on these matters, because waiting for the central bank to come up with specific findings or having to remediate in a kind of a reactive way can be kind of really disruptive for a firm's business, can be more costly than doing it proactively, and can be really challenging in terms of things like getting authorization in the first place. So kind of very clear in terms of what the central bank is expecting. And I think clear that it's expecting more from the firms themselves in these areas.
Yeah, and even just talking about expecting more, and you talked about that top priority of safeguarding. The two things that struck me on safeguarding was just the language in particular, was that there was no tolerance allowed for any issues in terms of weaknesses in safeguarding. And then second, which everyone loves a deadline, the expectation to have an audit opinion on your safeguarding process and whether you are safeguarding appropriately by the 31st of July. So it's certainly probably putting things centre of mind. So I think good letter overall, soft warning as we talked about. Yeah. And I think really there is an expectation now that there will be no excuses allowed for any more significant deficiencies. I think this is the writing the line in the sand. Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.